Hello, and welcome to Shrink, the podcast for the mind. I'm Philippe, and I talk to the people who want to have a better understanding of their issues with weight and body image. In today's podcast, I would like to talk about boredom. So why do I think I should bring on the subject of boredom? Well, boredom is one of the most frequent triggers when talking about binge eating. We get bored, so we start thinking about other things, and food is an easy distraction. And even more now that we're working from home, of course, for most of us. My first and strongest experience of boredom happened at school. I was very often so bored. I couldn't concentrate on what the teachers were saying, and most of the time I was looking outside through the classroom windows or watching the behavior of the other students. In fact, it could really be that it's then that I started having an eye on others' behaviors, which later helped me for my job as a therapist. But what is boredom really? There isn't one definition of boredom, but it's not just another name for, let's say, apathy or depression. The most common way to define boredom is having nothing to do. It's a specific mental state that we sometimes find unbearable, so we look for relief, and if possible, a quick one. We lose interest in the things we're doing, and we can't properly concentrate on them. Boredom is predictive of loneliness, anger, sadness, and worry. As the Danish philosopher Kierkegaard, not sure I'm pronouncing this one properly, but as the Danish philosopher Kierkegaard said, boredom is the root of all evil. When we're bored, time always seems to be passing slowly. And most of us don't like that. We can't focus on things which are probably important for us. It's almost as if boredom was a distraction in itself, in fact. We realize we're bored and we start focusing on it. But why do we get bored? We often get bored when we're doing repetitive things, for which we don't have much interest. When things are predictable and repetitive, they can become boring. If you're someone a bit like me, with a strong need for excitement and variety, you are at risk of boredom. And then, as a result, we can't properly focus on what we want or need. When we don't know what would make us happy, or let's say happier, boredom can then become more profound and have a huge impact on our well-being. Because we are then more likely to go for what I would call a quick fix, something that will distract us from boredom for a short moment of time. We may then feel trapped in a vicious cycle where food, or alcohol, sex, or drugs, for example, become a big part of our life. In certain parts of the world, some people's main concern is to make sure they have a roof to sleep under and enough food to survive. Boredom isn't in the air, like it probably wasn't for our ancestors. So how should we deal with our boredom? The first thing is to identify it and somehow make friends with it. What is this boredom telling me, about what I'm doing, or even procrastinating to do? What am I tempted to do to mask the pain or even the anxiety it creates? Pick up my phone to text a friend, or go on Instagram? That's the one I do. Think about the food I'd like to eat and eventually go for it. What is my pattern when I'm getting bored? Social media or dating apps and technology have made it easier to avoid the pain of boredom. But again, that's only a quick fix, and the more we rely on it, the more likely they are to become addictive. Nobody finds happiness, or at least a cure to boredom, by spending more time on social media. We may become spectators to others' happiness, or at least what looks like it. So I suggested being friends with our boredom. So let's have a chat with that friend. Ask him questions. What is making me feel this way? Is it just an occasional boredom or a more profound one? Am I doing things daily without really knowing why I'm doing them? Can I change the way I'm doing them if they need to be done? Or is it about the meaning of life? Do I lack of perspective? Boredom can make you creative. It should anyway. Creative in the way you see and you do things. If you're more mindful of what triggers your boredom, you're more likely to give it a better response. Tolstoy defined boredom as a desire for desires. That's not an easy one for me to say. A desire for desires. And I really agree. So let's be more aware of our profound desires and let's be creative so that we can do the things we like and live a more meaningful life.